So let's talk about ambition. Ambition isn't what you think it is. Ambition is capacity, and desire is the target. Most people think ambition is how bad you want it. And if you just want it more, that's what you need. But it's not about how bad you want it or how much you need it. It's about what your capacity is to be it. So most people confuse ambition with desire, right? Desire is the force with which you are charging towards that goal. So here's a little analogy for you. The cup analogy. Since a lot of people don't understand when I talk about models, I'm going to talk about cups. So your ambition is the size of your cup. And when you reach the size of your cup, you feel a fullness, right? This is how we're thinking about this. So in general, we have an average size cup, and most of us fill it and empty it and fill it and empty it. And we're in this cycle of feeling full for a sec and then wanting more. And maybe we change the size of our cup and we don't even know it. But for the most part, it's just this filling and emptying of the cup cycle. And we go back and forth on it, and we think we want change. We ask ourselves, how can we change? What's our desire to change? Maybe we do accidentally change the size of the cup without realizing it. But at the end of the day, we're just in this cycle of filling and emptying this cup. And it's not just us that fills the cup. Other people around us fill the cup. Other people around us block the cup from being filled. We block the cup from being filled. Everybody in turn has part of this cycle of filling your cup. But overall, you are responsible for filling your cup. And you are responsible for deciding the size of your cup, the capacity you have for whatever your ambition is, right? So we're going to use an ambition most people would like to have at some point, but there, of course, very few people are actually serious about it. So let's say, we want to move from an average size cup to a larger cup. And our real ambition is to become a billionaire. And this cup would be so massive that it couldn't fit on this page, right? So that's our ambition. So you want to be a billionaire. You want to be something so extraordinary that everybody else would be in awe of you. That is the greatest level of ambition, to put yourself in such a position that everyone else would be in awe of your cup, so to speak, right? So, and that, I'm not going to say that's a good or bad ambition. We're just going to use that as the example of the biggest size cup you would ever try to fill. You want to be a trillionaire. That's the new ambition, right? So right, we want to be this. We have to create this enormous cup, and then we have to figure out how to fill it. And that's where most people stop. So even though I have the ambition to be a billionaire and the desire to be a billionaire, and my desire is filling that cup and is pushing me in that direction to fill that cup, and I'm trying my hardest and pushing and pushing and pushing, putting as much water as I can in that cup. That cup is big as hell. That cup is not getting filled by just my desire. That cup is going to have to get filled by extreme luck, extreme circumstances, and maybe I manufacture them, maybe I don't. Maybe I find a way to go up and up and up, right? Some people do. Some people use investments or other vehicles to become a billionaire over time. So there is a way to be a billionaire. There is a roadmap to be a billionaire. Getting yourself on every step of that road, no matter how much desire you have, it's not going to be the only way to get there. So if you decide that your cup could be full at a different stage, then that's where most of us are. So let's take a more attainable goal. Let's say that if I want to think my cup would be filled when I have a great job, a nice family life, a good work life balance. This is probably the most reasonable ambition anybody ever has. So the great job is the hardest part of that, maybe, or the good family is the hardest part of that. You don't always get to choose your family. You hopefully get to choose your partner, and you are going to get the children that you get from the partner that you've chosen some way or another. And maybe you didn't choose that partner, or maybe you did, but you are going to end up with the family that you have. So at least some of that capacity is yours in that family. But at the end of the day, you are you. So your desire of saying what fills my cup and what my the size of my cup is there. And for some people, that's just enough. They have a reasonable job, their bills are paid, they have a nice house, reasonable car, reasonable everything, and that's the level of ambition. And that's a solid goal. There are a lot of people that do not have that, and therefore that becomes the ambition to get there. And then those people, once they get there, they say, oh, this is what I've been dreaming of, I've been hoping for my whole life, and I have it now. So now the question is, how do you keep your cup filled at that level of ambition? Or how do you grow your cup to the next level of ambition? So once you get there, perhaps their next level of ambition is that I want to retire with $1 million. That's a pretty reasonable goal for people that have already achieved a reasonable amount of success in life. Or maybe it's $2.5 million. It depends on what your job is and what your level of success is and what your ambition is, what size of that cup is. And then that desire is how much you push in order to get that. And you don't always have to push at the maximum level of desire to get there. The way your cup gets filled is there are so many variables to it. So you could find another way to fill your cup. You don't have to use the tried and true method, and you don't have to just hustle culture your way to this next stage. But what you do have to do, no matter what size cup you have, is you need to understand the constraints, right? You need to understand what is blocking you from filling your cup. What is in the way of you internally, most of all, from understanding how to fill that cup? What is holding you back from creating the ambition to size your cup properly? What is holding you back from the execution strategy? The feeling that it's going to be too hard to get there, or the people like me stories that are holding you back or pushing you down a different path, even though you know that this is the path that you would like to go. This is where your fullness really resides. And your level of fullness can be anywhere. You can have an extra large cup and still decide that that extra large cup is being filled by being a yogi on the rock and doing meditation for 18 hours a day and sleeping the other 6. Sure, right? That's somebody's grand ambition, and that actually takes a significant amount of concentration and achievement to get to that level of fullness. And if that's what you want to be, how you want your cup to be full, that's fine. If you want to be a billionaire and you find that you've removed all the blockers that are preventing you in certain places from getting there, and we found your path in some way or another to get to the first million, then that next step, they're likely to come. Right? So you can't just say, well, if I want to be a billionaire, as soon as I get to $1 million, I'll stop. Because the cup is so massive, that $1 million is just a drop in the bucket. But for most of us, getting to that first $1 million that's the challenge, right? For most of us, we're stuck in this small cup state. So when I talk, and I think the better metaphor is using this training yourself as an AI model, using this understanding of your internal model, the mechanism that sits between you and reality, your internal model, how it operates, how it perceives what's pulling in, how it takes that data, compares it to the data that you've already known, whatever you've known your whole life, assembles your thought about whatever's happening, and gives you the output. That part of you can be retrained. We can swap the model the same way we can change our cup. We can move from Claude to GPT, whatever. We can change that model. We can change the prompts we're feeding us. We can relabel the data that's holding us back. We can adjust the weights that each grouping of data collectively pulls us down this wrong direction, or this direction that maybe we didn't choose because we're being pulled by these weights. And we have to identify which of those weights are operating as we want them to. Maybe the weight is pulling you back to your family. I can't do this because my family is that. That's a reasonable weight, and you might want to have to adjust that weight in a certain way. You're going to have to be very careful about that one. Whereas if the weight is something related to a past trauma, or something related to all of my life, people said I was this, and you, like, whenever you start doing something, it pulls you back into that gut feeling, whatever they said about you, like, oh, maybe they were right. Maybe you've been trying to prove them wrong your whole life, but you just keep getting sucked back into that maybe they were right phrasing. That, changing that, adjusting that is part of this removal of the constraints that are placed upon you. That is how you figure out where you're going to go and how you're going to get there. That is how you allow the hose to flow without feeling like you're pushing too hard, right? Because it's not how hard you push, it's what's in the way of filling your cup. Okay? And there are other people in the way of filling your cup. There are things in life that you have to, if you want a bigger cup, you have to get yourself in a place where that bigger cup can be filled, and you have to put yourself on this different area where this cup is being filled. So there's even more to that analogy, right, than just the size of your cup. But it starts with that size of your cup. What is your internal capacity? What is your motivation and ambition? And then what is your likelihood that you will even fill that? And so a lot of people have this ambition for making a larger cup, but they realize, how am I going to fill that fucking cup? That thing is so big, right? And so then they stop there. The real question, of course, is not, can I have a bigger cup? Is what is going to stop me from filling that cup? Okay? We can't all have the giant Yeti 32-ounce tumbler, right? Some of us need the smaller 12-ounce or even smaller cups. And that's fine, because some of us just are content with a regular sized cup. And if that's you and your fullness is there and you're not in that yo-yo capacity of filling it, emptying it, filling it, emptying it, filling it, emptying it, that's fine. Most of us, if we get a bigger cup and we get it 3/4 of the way full most of the time, that's that feeling where we're feeling like we can relax, where we're not stressed, where we're close to being where we want to be. And that feeling, for most people, that I'm almost to fullness feeling, that is contentment. Maintaining that full cup is rare. It requires consistent improvement, consistent work, because even though you're responsible for filling your cup, you're not the only one that contributes to that fullness. And so therefore you can't always just depend on other people. You have to keep the sources flowing. Most importantly, you have to keep your internal source flowing. And your internal source is the thing that empties that cup faster than anything else. That feeling that you just got floored at work, your boss says something, whoa. Your significant other says something, whoa. You got a breakup, divorce, all of that, whoa. Even though your capacity to refill that cup still exists just the same way. So understanding your ambition, understanding your capacity for fullness, understanding the sources that are flowing into that and flowing out of it, and what is blocking those sources. Most importantly, understanding your capacity to fill that cup internally and what is blocking you. When you figure all of that out, when you remove those blockers, desire doesn't have to be this intense need. Desire can be something that just flows as you feel it should. It just flows into your cup, and your cup is naturally filled by being. That's a little complex, but I hope it helps some of you. So think about it. Be ambitious. Find a cup size that's right for you. Find a way to fill it. Adjust everything that's getting in the way. Remove the obstacles to the best of your ability and get that cup to that 90 percentile or higher. And you're going to be in great shape. Change your inputs, change your outputs, change your life. Read my book, You Are Not the Model, for some real deeper insights onto my model metaphor and what it really means for your capacity to change.